What would it take for you to hurt someone? Not by accident. Not in defense. But by choice. What if you were told to? What if it was part of your job? What if everyone else was doing it? We like to believe we'd stand strong. That we'd say no. That we'd be the exception. But psychologist Philip Zimbardo says that belief is part of the problem. In The Lucifer Effect, he explores how ordinary people commit extraordinary evil and how the line between good and evil is thinner than we think. He's not speculating. He ran the Stanford Prison Experiment, one of the most infamous studies in psychology, and what he saw shook him. This is a story not about monsters, but about systems, roles, environments, and the fragile self caught in between. Chapter 1. The Myth of the Bad Apple. When something terrible happens, an abuse scandal, a mass shooting, a war crime, our first instinct is to look for the bad guy, the rogue actor, the evil individual. We call them monsters, psychopaths, broken people. But Zimbardo challenges this reflex. He says evil is rarely about bad apples, it's about bad barrels. The idea is simple: people behave in ways the environment makes possible or even necessary, and that includes acts of cruelty. We like to believe in the strength of the individual, in willpower, in personal responsibility, and while those matter, they don't explain the full picture. Because context matters more than we think. Zimbardo's research and a mountain of evidence since shows that most people will conform to roles, follow orders, and rationalize harm when the situation supports it. The real danger is believing you're immune. Chapter 2. The Stanford Prison Experiment. In 1971, Zimbardo launched a study that would make history and haunt him. He recruited 24 healthy, normal college students, randomly assigned them to be either guards or prisoners, set up a simulated prison in the basement of Stanford. It was supposed to last 2 weeks. It ended after 6 days. Why? Because the guards became increasingly sadistic, humiliating, degrading, psychologically tormenting the prisoners. The prisoners broke down. They cried. Some begged to be released. Others rebelled. Some collapsed into silence. And here's the part most people forget. Zimbardo himself got caught up in it. As the prison superintendent, he lost objectivity. He didn't intervene. He watched it spiral until an outsider, a fellow psychologist, came in and said, "This isn't science anymore. This is abuse." And she was right. The lesson: put good people in a bad situation, and the situation often wins. Chapter 3. Individuation, losing the self. Why did the guards in the experiment change so fast? One reason: individuation. They wore uniforms, sunglasses, they had titles, roles. Their personal identities melted into the collective identity of guard. The prisoners, stripped of names, dressed in smocks, referred to by numbers. This breakdown of individual identity makes it easier to conform to group behavior, ignore personal responsibility, act without guilt. We see this in mobs, in war, in hazing rituals, in the anonymity of the internet. When we lose our sense of self, our name, our uniqueness, we become less human to ourselves. And that's when it becomes easier to dehumanize others. Chapter 4. Obedience and the Power of Authority. Before Zimbardo, there was Stanley Milgram. In the 1960s, Milgram ran an infamous study. Participants were told to give electric shocks to a stranger when they answered questions incorrectly. Most people obeyed. Even when the stranger screamed, even when they begged for it to stop, even when the shock was labeled as dangerous. Why? Because an authority figure in a lab coat told them to continue. Milgram's lesson: we are wired to obey authority even against our conscience. Zimbardo builds on this. He shows that it's not just authority, but roles, systems, and norms that can suppress moral resistance. People don't always need to be threatened to do wrong. They just need to believe. It's someone else's responsibility. It's just policy. Everyone else is doing it. I'm not really the one in charge. And slowly, step by step, people follow the path from obedience to complicity to harm. Chapter 5. Systems, not souls. Zimbardo draws a 3-tier model. Dispositional, personal traits and choices. Situational, immediate environment and roles. Systemic, overarching structures, ideologies, institutions. He argues to truly understand evil, we must look at the systemic level. Because systems set the rules, reward the behavior, create the roles, so normalize the consequences. Think about military prisons like Abu Ghraib, bureaucratic atrocities, corporate cover-ups, genocidal regimes. In each case, individuals were enabled by systems that gave permission, protection, or encouragement to do harm. If we want to stop evil, we can't just punish individuals. We have to fix the barrels, not just throw away the apples. Chapter 6. The slippery slope of evil. Evil rarely arrives in dramatic form. It starts small. A joke at someone's expense. A rule that removes empathy. A policy that treats people like numbers. And then it grows. Zimbardo calls this the foot in the door technique of immorality. You do a little harm, you justify it. Then you do a little more. Then more. And soon you're standing somewhere you never thought you'd be. The path to evil is incremental. It feels like progress. Like professionalism. Like duty. Until it doesn't. Chapter 7. Resisting the situation. The heroic imagination. If situations can corrupt, can they also inspire courage? Zimbardo believes so. He introduces the idea of the heroic imagination, the ability to see yourself as someone who can and must act against injustice, even when it's unpopular or dangerous. Heroes, he says, are aware of social pressures, resist conformity, break the silence, humanize others, defend the vulnerable. And they are often ordinary people who chose to act differently. Resistance is possible, but it requires self-awareness, courage, yosh, practice, and a refusal to lose your moral center even when the world goes numb. The heroic imagination is not about grand gestures. It's about small acts of conscience in everyday life. Chapter 8. What this means for yous. This isn't just history. It's not just theory. It's about you. When you're part of a workplace, a school, a political movement, you are part of a system. You will face moments where the rules seem wrong. The group demands silence. The authority encourages cruelty. The other is treated as less than human. And in those moments, you will be tempted to look away, to rationalize, to stay silent. That's when the Lucifer Effect becomes personal. Because the real danger isn't what others do. It's what we let ourselves become step by silent step. This book isn't just about evil. It's about the fragility of goodness and the strength it takes to protect it. You are capable of terrible things. That's not a curse. It's an invitation to stay conscious, to stay accountable. Zimbardo shows us the worst not to make us afraid, but to make us prepared. Because the line between good and evil is not out there. It runs through every system, every group, every uniform, and yes, through every human heart. If this shook you even a little, subscribe to Real Deep Understanding. Because here, we don't just explore ideas. We explore the truths that make us human and how to live with our eyes open. Like this video if it helped you see your own power and your own danger. Comment what role, situation, or system have you seen shift someone for better or worse. Share this with someone who says I'd never do that, because we all need to understand how close we are and how to step back. The Lucifer Effect doesn't predict your fall. It gives you the tools to rise instead.